he doesn't even attend the rating agency's credit rating reviews, which is the primary responsibility of the controller. I can't force him to do that. He did this report. The Department of Health immediately went out and they checked it. They've taken out with the Department of Parks any equipment that has the rating of lead. We're fixing it. I didn't think of it. I'll be the first one to admit, I didn't think, hey, we should test that slide. I have to rely on individuals to come up and say, Mark, maybe we should test the slides. They did. All I ask is that if he does something like that in the future again, and he tests a different building that we've maybe tested in the past, but who knows, maybe the paint that was fine 5 years ago is now peeling and flaking, so now you can see the lead, or it's lead paint. All I ask is provide us that information before sitting on it in 3 weeks, or at least before you give it to the reporter 3 weeks after you did it. Because if you really cared about the kids, you wouldn't have sat on it.
And to follow up on that, the action plan that we required from the legislature today, from the commissioner, we will have an executive summary. People are being trained tomorrow to remediate the equipment, and it starts Monday, the process of taking it down. It was strategically done. The controller, I asked him the question, said, yes, as soon as I let them know, Dr. Burstein's office acted immediately. That was his words, okay? So all the misinformation that is out there is exactly that, misinformation. The most important thing is now you have the legislature, you have the administration, and you also have the controller basically agreeing that we're going to just stop the petty stuff and we're going to make sure that this stuff is done and completed by September 1st. When we will now, as charge of the Health and Human Service Committee, I will have the executive summary in my hands September 1st because the commissioner said he could do that.
As is your job to do that. So that's not getting any special points for that. No pat on the back.
I'm not looking for special points. I do my job every day.
Right. Can you
Okay,
answer
every
the second
single
part of my
day.
question to you? Actually, my only question to you. I didn't ask you about the lead. I asked you about giving driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. Do you agree with
I've
that?
made that very clear. Illegal is illegal. Absolutely not. Do the homework, figure it out, find out what I said, and I said no.
I don't have to do the homework. You were elected and you serve the public, which I am the public.
Understood.
So don't tell me to do the homework. You answered me.
No, I would say this, we work for the public. We also have to refer and inform the public. And all I would ask is that we just be civil and say.
Don't tell me to do my homework then, buddy, okay?
She asked you a
Because I don't
question
know who you are.
here. She didn't do the homework.
You're being disrespectful as it is.
Who, me?
You, yes. You're
Because
being
I
very-
asked
Folks,
him a question.
let's-
I asked him a question.
No,
He
ma'am,
told me to do my
ma'am.
homework.
Stare at me?
Ma'am.
You're trying to intimidate me?
She has a question, I'll answer your question.
I asked a question and he told me to do my homework.
Leora Sellies, I understand.
You understand.
I just want everyone to say we're having a civil discussion. I look at it as we don't have to be adversarial. We don't have to direct our questions very aggressively, and our responses should be civilly as well.
And Mark, I actually agree, and you answered my question nicely. You didn't snap at me to do my homework,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that.
It's okay, folks. We live in an environment that unfortunately is much more adversarial than it should be. Been pretty nasty lately, not necessarily here, I'm just talking about in general. Makes it very difficult to govern when we have issues that we're constantly dealing with that are tough enough as it is. The job of county executive, the job of legislators are not easy jobs.
I find enough time to go on Twitter.
Sir, they're not
You
easy
live on
jobs.
Twitter. You live on Twitter.
Sir,
You live on Twitter.
we provide information through
No,
Twitter.
you live on Twitter. You
Instagram.
personally interject your personal views and you hide behind your political officiality.
I will say this.
It's direct-
We provided a lot of information to the public on Twitter. I am entitled to my opinion, just like anyone else is entitled to their opinion. And I spend the vast majority of my day, usually 10 hours
On
to
Twitter?
12, not on Twitter. And oh, by the way,
You're always on Twitter.
many of my posts are actually by my staff, especially as it pertains to governmental work. It's
Oh, I saw you distance yourself from that too. You distanced yourself from a Twitter post and said it was your staff also, so you're using
It has happened where,
You're just like Trump, you use Twitter, you hide behind it.
Tell them to get in line and ask a question the way other people do.
so why don't we go on to the next gentleman?
Charles,
We've been waiting
you know,
patiently.
everyone's staying all night.
Yes, sir.
I'm Donald Panassa, I live on Fourth Avenue in Lancaster. I'd like to know how the county justified spending $3,500 on clearing an acre of land with goats.
Oh.
It's
It
not-
actually cost a lot less than if we had spent and tried to clear the land with our own staff, because we would have had to rent specialized equipment. We would have had to have probably taken the staff off their normal duties and given overtime. It was goatscaping, for those of you who may have heard. It was a pilot project in which we basically got a great deal on an individual who hires out goats to eat debris. And what they did is they ate Japanese knotwood, which is a invasive species, which is very difficult to get out.
Did it work?
Yes.
No, it
It
didn't.
worked because it helped clear it, now we can maintain it.
No. It's
Some of it's...
It's 2 feet tall now, I have pictures to show it. Where they ate it, it's 2 feet tall. So how did it work? If it worked, it's fine, but it's not
Well,
working.
it never was going to eliminate all the Japanese knotwood.
So what was the
And we said
purpose?
that earlier. It was to see if it actually had value to the
Okay.
county. We are not utilizing that individual right now. We might in the future for another project.
So my question is, do you think it worked?
I do think it worked because it proved that they actually could go out there and clear out the size of the area that we hoped that they would.
But if it comes back in whatever time that it was since they've been
It's a
there,
lot easier for us to maintain it now and remove it, as even if it's 2 feet than when it's 12 feet.
but you're not doing anything with any of it except where the goats were. That was cut down and now it grew back. So what did you accomplish for $3,500?
Well, we proved that they could clear in a very fairly short period of time more than an acre of land. There's lots of other communities that are interested in it. The value that we pay, we'll never pay that again for the same time, because now she's got so many parties that are interested in hiring her goats for the similar size or larger area, that there's no one who's ever going to get that amount for $3,500. There's multiple municipalities as well as businesses that have booked her for the rest of this year and maybe even 2020.
And you
I think it did prove that you could clear a certain portion of land with goats, rather than sending our staff in, which would have cost a lot more than $3,500 with the rental of equipment, as well as staff time associated with having to then give them overtime to take them off of their normal duty, which is cut grass, maintain the bathroom facilities, maintain the other facilities in the park, the things that they normally do on a day-to-day basis. Because one of the other departments that was decimated, we have added some staff back, but one of the other departments that was decimated was parks with the right-wing fiscal crisis. It's just, they're not the same size workforce that they once were. And they probably never will be, because we're never going to be in a situation where we can hire that many people.
And this question is for the legislator. I called your office and talked about the light in the lighthouse. The final answer your aide gave me was that nothing could be done right now, and it would be maybe next year when they redo it. Then 2 hours later, I got a call from a person in the Parks Department who told me the light would be on that night, which it was, and then you went into the Lancaster Bee and claimed that you did it. And you had nothing to do with it. Your office said they couldn't do anything, and then you took credit for it. Thank you.
I do know, because he asked me, the legislator asked us to repair the lighthouse. And it was a directive that went to the Parks Department and said, when you can get to it, please repair the lighthouse. I don't know what his staff said, and I'm certain he doesn't know what his staff said, but he did bring it up to me in the past about finding a way to fix the lighthouse. And they did. Yes, sir.
Arthur Ringo from Hemlock Lane in Lancaster. I addressed an issue with John regarding the roads on, the roadway on Aurora. between, or just after Polo Park and just after William Street. Within about 150 feet, it looks like the road there's something wrong with the road bed underneath that.
But there's some alligator cracking, which would be inducive of having a sub-base issue. And more than likely, it's a water issue that we need to dig out, put in some weeps to drain that water out from the subgrade, and then patch the road back up in that section.
When will it be done?
That one, we have a pretty aggressive schedule, as we said, so we're hopeful to get that done before plowing season this year.
Okay, what other means of patching potholes have you explored? Polymers? Anything of that nature?
Most all our mixes right now are using polymer oils, and the patch that we use, the Mark 85, I believe it's called, the cold patch. It's just that it's a tacky cold mix. It's only supposed to be a temporary patch in the middle of winter because they don't make the hot asphalt, nor do the surface temperatures make it conducive for that bonding to occur. There's a lot of new products out there, but as Dan Amateur brought up before, some of the products that we're using now have to be environmentally friendly, so there's a lot of cutbacks. The oils that used to exist, and they're not as tenured as what we were using in the past. So we're having a lot of failures sooner with some of that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Pete Nabisky. I live on Sonora. Thank you for your service. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
I'll try to be civil. I just want to a couple questions. Now, before they said, and maybe Mr. Rufino could answer this, and the supervisor left, and he said something about sprawl. The sprawl can't stop. You can't stop building from going on. There's so many subdivisions coming off William and coming off all over there. You agree? Because this is on the town. They agreed to build these subdivisions. Part of this is on them because it's a county road. William Street's a county road. But this is on you guys too.
If I can answer that. So here's what happens. A lot of people think it's a town, but it's not. Because what happens is the builder will go to agencies, the state, the county, for water permits and the sewer permits and the road. Once they have all the certificates, the town is not allowed to turn it down.
So it's just yes, no matter what.
I
Just
wish
yes.
myself when you come up because you know what I'm saying. I'll give you a perfect example. Tim Hortons on Transit Road. Okay, they had all the accreditations they needed. This is back in the years, Transit and Lackady. We voted it down. We had to come back in and do a special vote because they had all their accreditation and there was no reason for us to turn it down. I lost sleep over that because of the fact that we really can't vote the way we want to.
Infrastructure is reasonable. You can't
But if
keep
they,
building.
but if they have the accreditation or certificate from the state saying that the road can handle that traffic, we can't overrule that.
And my other thing.
Like our Department of Public Environment Planning, which handles the sewer districts, if it's in a sewer district in Erie County, we can stop projects if there's not enough sewer capacity to handle it, and we have. The problem is a lot of the districts have the capacity, so if it has the capacity, by law, we don't have the power necessarily to say no. We're having a big problem. People know where Stu Ben Foods is in Elma. We have a big problem trying to meet the need with Stu Ben Foods on water through the sewers because they use so much water in the production. They want to expand, but right now we don't have the capacity in our sewer districts to expand. So not only have we turned down Stu Ben Foods' application to expand there, we've also turned down a couple developers who are interested in doing projects in that area because there's just not sewer capacity to handle it. It's a huge problem that continues to grow, and there's certain things that the county can do, there's certain things that the town can do. I just look at it as, I think we all need to work together on these issues because it doesn't behoove us as a region. That's why the program is called One Region Forward. It doesn't behoove us as a region to keep on pushing further and further out because the population is not growing commensurate to justify it, and then the infrastructure doesn't exist or we have to pay for it. So I feel your
So the
pain.
tax base goes up. Our taxes never go down.
I mean, Pleasant View, there's a problem. There was the fire on Pleasant View about a year ago, in which the fire department went out, they activated the hydrant, and because there's so much water usage based on the new developments that are pulling the water out of the line, they didn't have enough water to fight the fire. Now they need to build bigger water lines. And it was one of the reasons why there was a delay on the road, because we believed that there was going to be a request to not build the road yet, or repair the road, so that they could get in there and do repair on the water and sewer. In the end, they elected not to do the repair, so now we're just doing the road.
Okay.
And I know what's going to happen 2 years from now. They're going to probably go out there and say, we want to fix the sewer and water. But if they do that and they dig up our road, they're responsible to repair the road then.
And my last thing is to you, Mr. County Executive. Now, you say Twitter or whatever, this and that, could be your staff, could be you, could be whatever. Well, I've seen one of your responses, and I'm here to tell you right now, I'm not a Russian troll. I have 5 years of taxes right here. You said your rate goes down. 4 point, up every year. You tell me where. I have, this is proof. So one of us is not telling the truth.
Well,
What?
both of
Not
us
well.
are telling the truth.
Have they been going down? Yes or
The
no?
tax rate has gone down. Every year, towns are adjusted for equalization rates. You know what equalization rates are?
This is-
Equalization rates, when a town does not change its assessment,
They changed our assessment.
well, but what they do is they keep up, they look at, New York State does equalization rates, even the county doesn't do it. What they do is they look at all of the towns, the cities, the villages, and they try to equalize the tax rates because of not only the county, but the school districts, which often jump over town lines. So they'll equalize the balance. So while the tax rate will go down, and the tax rate has gone down, the tax rate is the lowest it's been in nearly 20 years. But you may see an increase because of an equalization rate or assessment growth in your community, which the county doesn't control.
This is on the county line.
Yeah,
So you're saying,
we don't,
well, basically what happens then, sorry, but basically what happens, so you're saying is, yeah, our taxes went down, but don't worry, we're gonna make up for that, we'll just jack your assessments up. So my taxes never go down.
I don't control, the county doesn't control the assessments. The assessments are controlled by the towns.
You control the rates.
The
You
rate
just
is
said
set.
you dropped the rates.
We
Who
we control the countywide assessment rate, not assessment rate, the countywide tax rate. It's a uniform tax rate adjusted then for every municipality based on the equalization rate. So we don't look and say, we're going to adjust Lancaster, we're going to adjust Alden, we do a countywide assessment based on full value that we're receiving. And so then, make sure I said it, we have a countywide tax rate that's based on the full value of the levy. The assessments are all done on the local level. And when I mean that, I mean the town, the village, or the city.
That I understand.
And they often control whether your taxes go up or not. If a town does not do an assessment, but and there are some towns in our county that have not done assessments in over 25 years. And so, under the equalization rules, every year, even if the town doesn't do an assessment, they have to be equalized to balance off because everybody pays county taxes and it has to be based off of one rate. We've lowered that rate. My predecessor actually increased it. We've lowered it. It's the lowest it's been since Joel Giambra's first year, because he made a dramatic tax rate cut of 32%. But what they did, and what created the record fiscal crisis, is they cut the taxes, but they actually increased their spending. They balanced their budgets on three different ways. Number one, they used all the fund balance. If you're old enough to remember, at that time it was a $200 million surplus fund balance. They used that over a number of years. They had a $250 million tobacco settlement. Remember the tobacco settlement we were going to get? We did get it. It was supposed to last 20 years. It was spent in about 6 because they used the settlement. And then in the final year, when they didn't have any more money to balance the budget, they had a $90 million budget gap. That's when they sold ECMC to itself. ECMC floated the bonds. They paid the county back $90 million for the cost of the hospital, but the county ends up paying, because we're responsible for the bonds, $180 million in the long run. That was not a good deal for the people of Erie County. But that's how they balanced their last year. And then the Red Green fiscal crisis hit in 2005. They had nowhere else to turn. So the taxes at that point, and I give County Executive Giambra and the legislature credit at that point. They did the right thing and they raised the property tax to cover the shortfall. They raised the sales tax. Nobody wanted it. But remember, they had to raise it, and they still cut county government by 25%. Laid off 25% of the workforce. And when I say 25% of the workforce, it wasn't an even 25% per department. Like social services, because most of that is mandated and we get federal and state aid, that really didn't get cut. But highways got cut, like 50%. Parks got cut by 60%. So all those departments that people like and want in their government got drastically cut to make up for the deficit that they have. What we've been able to do, and the tax levy has gone up, primarily because of assessment growth. We've reduced the tax rate. It used to be $5.03 per thousand when I came in. It's now, I think, $4.84 per thousand. Primarily because we also have additional properties. All these new buildings that are going on in downtown Buffalo and so forth that are private, that paid zero taxes, now pay taxes. The ones in Lackawanna that paid zero taxes for years now pay taxes. That's going into the levy. That's what we want. Because the more new builds we have that are those types of new builds, not just a new subdivision further out, but a new building like that adds to our tax base, which should, in the long run, reduce everyone's burden. If we had kept the tax rate the same, your taxes would be substantially more. But we've been able to reduce the tax rate. So we're both right. You probably are paying more, but the tax rate has gone down as a tax rate for the whole county.
And
I just gave an advanced level course on taxes, and now you all can go out there and
last
practice.
thing, quick, and you can answer this, and Mr. Russo, quick, you just did, you passed your consumer affairs, which we already have agencies to protect that. Quick question, are you planning on doing this agriculture committee too? And hold on before you answer, to me, and probably to a lot of people, and Mr. Bruce, I'd like to know if you agree, are you all in for bigger constant government?
Today, the legislature passed by 9-1 vote the creation of the Department of, actually, the Division of Consumer Protection, which will be in the Department of Public Advocacy. The department already exists. The office used to exist in county government years ago. It does exist in many other communities. There are there's one consumer protection office that's state, and that's the Attorney General's office, but it does not do the same level of consumer protection that we do. And so our Division of Weights and Measures is being moved from the Department of Public Works to this Department of Public Advocacy and the new Division of Consumer Protection. And we are looking at creating one new position, which would be the director, the executive director of the Office or Division of Consumer Protection, who is a civil service position, and there's a jobs specs are already written because it's an existing position in the Interstate Civil Service Code, and they have to have a background in consumer protection. What we've seen is a tremendous increase in consumer fraud. I told people this: if you use an ATM that is not connected to a bank, don't use it. I do not use ATMs that are not connected to a bank. If you see it says M&T, KeyBank, go ahead, whatever, 5-star bank, that's safe. But the ones that are in restaurants, and if there's any restaurateurs or bar owners here, I'm sorry, that what we're seeing is a tremendous level of consumer fraud, and people don't know where to turn. They don't know how to get their money back when their bank accounts get ripped off. So what we're doing is we're creating a resource for individuals to use, including re-empaneling the Consumer Protection Committee, which has been in the charter for 80 years. It just hadn't been, they disempaneled it during the Red Green fiscal crisis. We're bringing that back in, which is a volunteer group of individuals who make recommendations on the county on how we can better consumer protection. It is my intention to create in the Environment and Planning Division or Department an Office of Agriculture. We have a tremendous need for an Office of Agriculture. One of the biggest problems we're seeing with regards to our Department of Environment and Planning are issues related to agricultural concerns, agricultural runoff, permitting, the problems that often exist. Most people don't believe this, but I spent a lot of time on the phone this year with the Henrys and the Zittles from Eden, resolving those issues. Skip Gingrich from Marilla, the supervisor there, is also an agricultural family. He's called me multiple times to deal with these issues. I don't mind the calls, I'm willing to do it, but I'm not the person who can answer their questions. It's the Department of Environment and Planning. And what we've realized, based on the size of agriculture in our community, it should not be given short shrift. It should not be treated like a redheaded stepchild, where we have an Office of Economic Development that's focused on industrial development, and we have economic development personnel that are focused on data analytics and stuff like that, but we don't have individuals that are dedicated to address the issues of agriculture, which is a big issue in our community, because agriculture is a big concern in our community. And so we are going to create an Office of Agriculture which will work in tandem with the Office of Economic Development and the Office of Industrial Development, which currently exist in county government, to promote agriculture as an industry, agriculture for tourism, and the other issues that are revolved around agriculture, especially as they pertain to the environment.
It's all about money. We're here about money. It's bigger government. It's more payroll. It's more benefits down the line. That's what happens. If the government keeps getting bigger, it just doesn't stop.
Well, I will say this. It's like the issue with the industrial park in Lackawanna and building the road. The road spurred development that would not occur. And as a result, there's new jobs that are being created for our community and new tax base. So I worked in the business community for a number of years. I was a lawyer. I practiced law. Represented some of the biggest companies in this region, and also did part-time. I would represent people on house closings and bankruptcies and stuff like that if they needed them. What's an axiom in business? You have to spend a little money to make some money. Well, sometimes you have to spend a little money in government to create a stronger economy for your region. And that's what I think this is going to do. Not just the development of the business park in Lackawanna, but the agricultural industrial park that we want to build in Evans, because we believe it'll create stronger economy for our agricultural community by bringing processors together, so the people in Eden, the people in Murillo, the people in Alden who are farmers can sell their product to the producers that would build them here, hire people here. Batavia, 20 years ago, were people thinking about industrial parks in Batavia, now they're booming with industrial parks. So for me, I look at it as it's an investment in the community's long-term growth. If we do not invest in our community, we will lose out to other communities that will.
Sorry, it's my second time
Sorry.
around. I just wanted to revisit a point that you made that I think is a very important point regarding cordiality. I want to predicate this with stating that I, like the other gentleman, am not a Russian control. I spent 10 years in the military, I'm disabled, deployed at Ground Zero, and I was trained in the best universities in this country, Lilly ranked #1. Georgetown, Syracuse, IWP, things like national security, counterintelligence, and political work. That said, I appreciate, I'm just giving that so you understand the context of my question, well, my statement and or question. Given your context of cordiality and the contentious nature that tragically defines the contemporary U.S. sociocultural and political environment, do you think, I would contend this, using your public office and a position as an elected official to grandstand and critique of the United States President and or in opposition to U.S. national policy, specifically regarding the Paris Accords, is conducive to or not conducive to cordiality?
I believe it is part of our right as an American.
Indeed.
We have the right of free speech. I can disagree with the policy of the president, just like people can disagree with policies of me. And that's our, if we get rid of that, and if we say you cannot disagree because the president says it, we're no longer the United States of America.
I'm not saying you don't have the right to disagree. I'm saying using the manner of
And I think it's fair for me to criticize the president. But you don't see me out there calling him names like people. You'll see me there, I disagree with the president on this policy. I disagree with them on this policy, but I'm not out here. You won't see me calling him an orange Cheeto, which you see a lot of people calling the president, or other names, or what people call Andrew Cuomo, and I've seen lots of nasty things about Andrew Cuomo, including things that rhyme with Cuomo. You can disagree with him, but we can do it in a manner where we're exercising our right as citizens of the United States. Even the right of free speech is not absolute. No one here can yell fire. And then, well, if there was more crowded, it would be much more of a concern. We had 150 people in here, and someone yelled fire in the middle of a show, you can't do that, and you have a right to do that. Free speech does not protect everything. Especially, it does not protect certain aspects. You do not have a right to own child pornography because we've decided as a society unjustly